Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today's video is not going to be a Helldivers no stim run, but rather we are going to be going over the absolute blender that is taking place on Steam. Also is taking in Sony and Arrowhead Studios jointly. So what's going on, unless you've been having things to do in life or just living under a rock or don't really play Helldivers too much and just checking out what's going on? Well, it is going to be pretty soon as a requirement that you will have to have a PSN account to play Helldivers 2, even if you are on PC. It's kind of a shocker considering you have a lot of different countries around the world that play this game, and PSN is not available in all of them. Rather, I believe only like 69 countries are able to play the game with a PSN account, which really cuts off a bunch, and I mean a bunch of the player base, including one of the mods who later retracted his statement, just stated people could just make an account in like 120 seconds, fill out their information, and be done. Little do you know, what you would think as a community manager, being the middleman between the community and the developers, such as the studio, you think they would do their research, but it looks like this guy, he really didn't, I guess, do his due diligence or really even care and just really responded the way he did, but really showed no consideration for the other people, which obviously he later retracted it, stating that he had no idea, but really kind of doesn't really look good as far as the studio when it comes for community management. And even it's just a super big mess. I mean, you have other players that are leaving reviews trying to get Sony to notice this. And even in the Discord, you have some of the, what we call it, the community managers saying, hey, like I think his name's Spitzer, basically stating that, look, we are trying to get Sony, we are trying to communicate, we are trying to show them all of this feedback. So essentially, if you don't like it, just continue to leave negative reviews on Steam just to try to show that the community is not a fan of this. And in what took about 2 months of positive reviews were broken down in less than 48 hours as far as being mixed to mostly negative. And you'll have some individuals wanting to start, really talk legal and bring in the law into it. Well, as a U.S. citizen, you really cannot file a suit against a company in the USA on behalf of someone else that is in another country, because as licensed attorney, there is no jurisdiction for it. There is no standing for it. It cannot be a generalized grievance. Rather, it has to be concrete and particularized. Basically, meaning you have to have a specific harm and a specific person that is harmed from it, and it has to obviously have causation, meaning it's foreseeable that that harm has happened. So we really, in layman's terms, do not have jurisdiction over it because there is no standing also, and that really just would not even be feasible because you just have so many different people involved, and doing a class action like that will just be way too messy, and I don't know any firm or any attorney that would really even want to take that type of case anyways. And also going on to PSN, it's not just like anyone can just make an account with a 10-minute mail like back in the day when we would just spam PS Plus, free trials. This requires you to actually provide, in some countries and some methods, your driver's license as well as even a face scan option. So it's not just your run-of-the-mill create an account and be done with it. Like, some of your personal information is being put on this, and so trying to use a VPN, they're pretty much going to know, wait, your license is, let's just say, in Alabama. Why are you saying you live in Antarctica or Finland? You know what I'm saying? And it's just really nuts, especially with the amount of data breaches that, like I said earlier in the video, that PSN has had. Like, one of the ones that stand out the most to me was back in 2010 to 2000, maybe 12-ish, where PSN was shut down for 2 weeks due to a bad data breach from hackers, and they are consistently having multiple breaches, and it's just kind of well, it's not our information, it's yours, so we don't really want to make it a priority, which is kind of odd. But that's just the way the run-of-the-mill is. Another thing to touch on is it's just far as the business model goes when they came to releasing this. So when they released this statement, it was about 2 a.m. in Switzerland, which if you adjust for the time zones, because Sony is based in California, that would pretty much be the end of the workday. And so not only that, but it's also on a Friday, which means when you release something like this, as controversial as it is, you're leaving it for the weekend to fester. The offices are going to be closed. And so when it comes to taking feedback or having, Arrowhead Studio want to, communicate with Sony about stuff, they're not going to really get back to anything until Monday, which 2 days is a long time when you have something as big as this that is dropping. And it's just, to me, a really bad, sour move as far as the corporate goes, because I know Arrowhead did not want to like push away a lot of the player base or just really cause a bunch of hate and discontent, but they're just trying to, you know, make great games, like as their CEO said. I mean, it is warranted, it is needed, you know, for players to make a stand, because it's just really unfortunate, especially because this is a very passionate studio, and finding studios that make games like this that want to listen to the player base, that are actually engaged with it, that really actually want the game to succeed over long term, and don't spam it with pay to win or pay to play. It's kind of like Call of Duty does with all these different skins, you know, and just really lose their identity. This game has its own, like, they care about nerfs, they do them appropriately, and they prepare them for new things like war bonds that are coming out, and they have just very, very much a memed, what do you call it, a memed, I guess, community when it comes to democracy. Like, it's something that it's just a great thing to be a part of, because in my opinion, this is one of the best games this year. I mean, it's already like the 7th most grossing game, I believe, on Sony they have released, which is pretty intense, because you know there's some really big names out there under the Sony name and still don't make as much as this live service game that's only been out since like February 8th. But there is one thing that does need to be kind of touched on or tightened up a little bit, is the community managers, in my opinion, from Arrowhead. Because some of them I know from the very first Helldivers, they just became community managers whenever they were just mods from Reddit. So not really many of them are as educated or even knowledgeable on what it takes to do a player base. I mean, I've seen, some people just say, oh, well, they weren't expected to do, this big of a player base, maybe 150 to 200,000 rather than 1.5 to 2 million. But rather, I mean, you would still need to treat, whether it be 5 people, 10 people to a billion people, the same way when it comes to taking feedback and really taking the punches, because that is really what a community manager is supposed to do, is just take the punches from the community as far as feedback and really just be that good middleman as far as how updates go, rather than just spitting out stuff on the whim and not doing research. Especially how one of the guys named Spitz said about doing the accounts. Now, you can create one, but no one can even reasonably be able to make an account whenever not all the countries are going to support it. But I'm really curious to see how this will turn out, because this is probably one of my all-time favorite games I've played, and I've played a bunch of great titles, especially like Call of Duty Zombies, which you've seen on this channel before. So thank you all for watching. I'm really curious. Just leave in the comments below what you think about this whole situation, and whether you agree, whether you disagree. I just really want to see your opinion on this. So thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.